I'm Christy Bergen, Research Professor and Director of the Prosocial Development and Education Research Lab. Some years ago, a graduate student of mine who was a counselor at a group home for troubled teenagers told me that a fight had broken out at the group home one evening over something trivial like who was going to take the next shower. The police were called and arrived fully armed and threatened the kids, telling them that they would be taken to jail if their fighting behavior didn't change. The kids' response was, "So what? Big deal." The staff had used their biggest threat and it didn't work because the kids were desensitized to threats. My graduate student asked me, how do you de-escalate kids' expectations of threats and get them to respond to a request without bribery or threats? Around the same time, a director of a Head Start program dealing with behavior issues in 3 to 5-year-olds asked me if I could help the staff learn to manage behavior without resorting to suspending preschoolers. Both groups, teachers of preschoolers and teenagers, had the same question, and it's a big question. How do you foster positive behavior, promote self-control rather than external control, and de-escalate kids' expectations for coercion? We develop practical, respectful strategies that are doable in both preschool and high school classrooms. While not exhaustive, these strategies will improve the climate in your school and promote well-being in both students and teachers. The approach is called prosocial education. The purpose of prosocial education is to increase students' prosocial behavior. If you're not familiar with that term, you can think of prosocial behavior as the opposite of antisocial behavior or selfishness. Antisocial behavior harms others or disrupts a social group, while prosocial behavior is any behavior that benefits others or promotes harmonious relationships. It includes respecting, cooperating with, helping, and supporting others. We focus on 4 strategies, which we call the pillars of prosocial education. First, replacing power-assertive discipline with induction. Inductive discipline means you give students a reason for changing their behavior during discipline. For example, you might say, you need to stop that behavior because you're distracting your classmates. Second, praising children for kind, respectful, cooperative behavior when you catch them being good. We teach how to make that praise more effective. These first 2 pillars are the foundation for the next 2 pillars. So third is building positive teacher-student relationships, and fourth is creating emotionally upbeat classrooms. These strategies are based on 50 years of developmental psychology research showing that how adults interact with children influences the children's development of self-control, empathy, and respectful treatment of others. Let's talk about the benefits of implementing prosocial education in classrooms. When prosocial education strategies are effectively implemented in classrooms, school climate improves. The primary driver of climate in schools is personal relationships. Students' prosocial behavior toward each other and positive teacher-student relationships are the foundation. Teacher self-efficacy improves. How confident teachers feel in their ability to teach predicts burnout, job satisfaction, and retention. When teachers feel more confident, they use better teaching and classroom management strategies. State achievement tests also increase. Students in prosocial education have higher test scores compared to control group students. This is especially noteworthy because when we focus on improving prosocial behavior among students, we're not focusing on the academic content. In other words, improving academic learning is an indirect effect of students treating one another and their teacher more respectfully. Our research, funded by the U.S. Department of Education, uses rigorous science. We have found improvements in student engagement, learning, prosocial behavior, climate, teacher-student relationships, and teachers' use of high-quality teaching practices.
Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports is a tiered framework for supporting students' behavioral, academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs. PBIS emphasizes systems, data, practices, and outcomes. So we have 3 different levels of multi-tiered systems of supports. And so Tier 1 interventions apply to all students. They are universal, school-wide supports provided to all students and typically delivered by the classroom teachers. Examples of this include prosocial education. Then we have Tier 2. These are more specialized interventions for targeted students who need additional structured supports, typically delivered or overseen by specialists. Examples of this can include check-in, check-out, first step to success, or social skills training programs. And then we have Tier 3. These are intensive, individualized interventions that are often delivered by a team of specialists. Examples include functional behavioral assessments, otherwise known as FBAs, and prevent, teach, and reinforce. PBIS as an approach is an infrastructure that includes Tier 1 and Tier 2 components, which schools can implement differently. In Tier 1, schools can select various approaches for classroom management practices. And then for Tier 2, the use of frequent feedback and rewards could be approached in a variety of ways. And then the purpose of PBIS is, of course, to reduce misbehavior among students. Research on the effectiveness of school-wide PBIS primarily measures whether office referrals and suspension rates have reduced across the school building using a system to track, monitor, and use office discipline referral data.
Prosocial education and PBIS align in some ways and differ in others. A strength of both approaches is that they promote conversation about what behaviors are valued in the school, which can lead to consistency of approach across classrooms and in common spaces. Both prosocial education and PBIS are built on the premise that social skills can be taught and student behavior and well-being can be improved. Prosocial education can be effectively applied from preschool through high school. School-wide PBIS is primarily implemented in elementary and middle schools. Prosocial education strategies come from the research addressing how to promote optimal development in typically developing children. It is a universal or Tier 1 approach. The primary outcome measured in prosocial education is the students' increased kind, helpful, respectful, collaborative behavior among all students. The primary outcome measured in PBIS is reduction in office disciplinary referrals among students who are likely to get referrals. Both prosocial education and PBIS expect academic achievement to increase as a result of improving student behavior. Research shows that the lack of prosocial behavior more strongly predicts low achievement than the presence of misbehavior. Prosocial education avoids material rewards, but focuses on social rewards like praise, a nod of approval, or thumbs up. Use of material rewards undermines prosocial behavior, but social rewards do not. School-wide PBIS emphasizes the use of material rewards such as points, tickets, and prizes for compliant behaviors. Both prosocial education and PBIS view discipline as a teaching moment. Both endorse some research-based principles of effective discipline and have some overlapping strategies. However, they endorse different approaches to discipline. Two major approaches to discipline are induction and power assertion. Induction refers to giving students a reason to change behavior or obey a rule, emphasizing how their behavior affects others. Power assertion refers to controlling students' behavior through consequences, emphasizing what is going to happen to them. Prosocial education strongly emphasizes the use of induction and discourages the use of power assertive discipline or rewards because both have serious costs.
External controls like threats, consequences, rewards, whatever term is used, can be helpful when a student's behavior is out of control, but not as a long-term or Tier 1 intervention. Schools that emphasize power assertion tend to have low achievement, poor school climate, and more dropouts. Other costs to using power assertion include students learn that it's acceptable for people in positions of power to threaten or coerce others. Students come to dislike adults who control them using threats or rewards. Most importantly, students are not internalizing your values, so students are likely to become less compliant over time or need bigger and bigger threats or rewards to comply. Remember the high school students in the group home at the beginning of the video? They had acclimated to very high levels of threat so that nothing moved them. In contrast, research finds that induction helps students internalize standards for behavior and become self-governing over the long term. Research also finds that power assertion leads students to comply in the situation, but not over the long term, so that bigger threats or rewards are needed over time. This is a key point. If you exert enough pressure, you can get kids to comply in the short term, but you undermine their long-term development of self-control. Prosocial education emphasizes the use of praise or social reward to increase prosocial behavior in the classroom and discourages the use of material or tangible rewards. Research suggests that material rewards can undermine typical students' motivation and development of self-control. It can also reduce prosocial behavior in the long term. In addition, there's philosophical concerns that it encourages students to behave well for self-serving motives, like what's in it for me. It can create an ego-involved peer culture, and it can undermine the spirit of generosity or shared humanity in students, rather than appealing to their better angels. In conclusion, let's summarize. Praising students, using inductive discipline, and nurturing positive teacher-student relationships all lead to greater prosocial behavior among students. A master teacher in a PBIS school who had adopted prosocial education said, "PBIS is about rules. Prosocial education is about principles." If we teach students principles, it empowers them to govern themselves and make wise choices. Schools can easily incorporate induction and social praise in a PBIS framework to replace power assertion and material rewards. In Tier 1, simply practicing behavior expectations and reinforcing can include be prosocial towards each other. In Tier 2, the reteaching and rewarding could also be induction and social praise. Thus, PBIS and prosocial education can go hand in hand and can provide a cohesive, unified approach to creating a positive and supportive school environment.